Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from Red State dated July 24th. It says Kamala wants to frame campaign as prosecutor versus felon. That's not good for her. So let's go ahead and see what this article has to say. And yeah, she wasn't a very good prosecutor is probably the point of it, but let's see. There's a fledgling campaign for Kamala Harris is reportedly seeking to frame the 2024 presidential election as a prosecutor versus convicted felon narrative. The initial observation here is that the felon in the story is actually not the bad guy. If the vice president wants to push her record as district attorney in San Francisco and later as California attorney general, she does so at her peril. Yeah, that's the problem. It says doing so would expose her as an inept investigator, a champion of jailing poor minorities, and an avid supporter of defunding the police while funding criminals. Oops, scroll back up. Let's take a look, shall we? We'll start with her issues struggling to connect with minority communities, something Democrats are relying on making headway in the race against Donald Trump. The video from an appearance at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco in 2010 shows Harris gleefully relaying a story about threatening parents with jail time if their kids skip school. So she's an authoritarian right off the bat. As I believe a child growing without an education is tantamount to a crime, Harris told the crowd in attendance, so I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. As the video shows a smiling and laughing Harris sharing the story, noting that she had the political capital to try and get those kids in school by threatening their parents. So, there you go. As critics were quick to point out that those most vulnerable to Harris's overzealous prosecution of parents were low-income minority families, and I don't think she cares. As Harris, in another clip, can be heard describing how she tried intimidating a single homeless mother of 3 kids. The Democrat can be seen laughing about sending her office's homicide and gang prosecutors to school to meet with the struggling woman. When you go over there, look really mean, she recalled. Yeah, is this the person you want running your country? Because I'm just going to intimidate people that don't agree with me? Says Harris would later suggest she was simply trying to connect parents to the resources they needed. I doubt it. Says then the charges would be dropped. Another sticking point for minority voters has been Harris's history of expanding convictions of marijuana users in California. And I know I'm always pronouncing that wrong. I'm doing that on purpose. As California Attorney General, Harris oversaw thousands of marijuana-related convictions. Critics argue that these convictions disproportionately affected black and brown communities and that Harris's office fought against efforts to reduce sentences or expunge records. Harris later came under additional fire for that prosecutorial, record when she claimed she smoked weed in high school, with some branding her a hypocrite. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Exactly what she is, I should say, is a hypocrite. It says while Kamala has little in the way of street cred due to her record as a malicious prosecutor, Trump's own street cred has been amplified by being the victim of malicious prosecutors. Yeah, it's going the opposite way that you guys wanted to, right? This Craig Scott, who described himself as a black Robin Hood in a Newsweek op-ed, argued Trump's repeated run-ins with the law and what seems like an unfair obsession with catching him and punishing him disproportionately for his so-called crimes reminds a lot of us what was done to us in the black community. He's literally been in my shoes. No other president can brag on that, Scott said, and believe me, he will brag about it. Yes, he will. Says Harris doesn't have the near the cachet with certain voting blocs that Democrats hope she does. Bring on the prosecutor versus felon push from her campaign. Says when she wasn't targeting poor minorities in the Golden State, Harris was failing women in her own office. As Attorney General, Harris ignored an accusation and lawsuit alleging sexual harassment by a top aide in her office. The complaint involved gender harassment perpetrated against her aide's former executive assistant, along with allegations that she was forced into demeaning behavior. The case ultimately led to a $400,000 settlement and the resignation of that aide who had been described as one of Harris's closest professional confidants. The then AG feigned ignorance of the whole accusation and lawsuit despite it being reported years earlier, because again, she's a social climber and she's, just going to, nope, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm going to ignore it, it's just going to happen, whatever. There's only an inept prosecutor would completely miss a harassment case in her own office, right, exactly. But then ineptitude defines Kamala. In 2006, she granted probation to a man who went on to murder 2 people. At the height of the 2020 race riots, Harris encouraged people to contribute to a bail fund to free violent rioters. Again, having problems with talking here. One of those freed ended up being charged with murder. And I did a video a couple days ago from probably when you're hearing this that they're trying to scrub this. Like she had nothing to do with this. And it's like, well, here's the proof that she did in fact do that, because you're looking at the tweet on the screen right now. It says she continues to raise money for that bail fund. It says when she isn't jailing people for minor offenses and bailing out those with violent criminal records, Harris has been a vocal supporter of defunding the police, which was never a good thing to begin with. She supported the movement and said we need to reimagine public safety, even applauding the Los Angeles mayor for slashing police funding by $150 million as the riots were ongoing, because that was just dumb, but okay. As Harris also backed abolishing ICE, the agency that arrests and supports dangerous criminals, insisting that we need to, probably be thinking about starting from scratch. Okay, I did a previous video where she said something like that, and this is, the full context of that comment, because before I was like, I don't know what exactly that's referring to. It sounded kind of weird, but okay, so she just wants to get rid of it. All right. So you read that, right? The woman Joe Biden tapped as border czar wanted to abolish the one enforcement mechanism for prosecuting criminal illegal aliens. Kamala Harris was never qualified to be San Francisco DA. She was even less qualified to be California's AG. It's not even a question when it comes to the White House. Even on the heels of one of the most incompetent presidencies in history, Harris's history as a prosecutor and the very few things she was tasked with as VP illustrates she's not exactly an upgrade over Biden. So there we go. Some more stuff about Kamala's career and the kind of like evil things she's done. So there she is. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.